Hey everybody, this is Peter Robbins with Armchair Dragoons, but in this scenario, we're talking on behalf of ATG with Larry Bond and Chris Carlson, as usual, the usual suspects, right? Not to be confused with the actors from the movie, but occasionally mistaken.
I didn't do it.
uh,
You can't prove I was there.
right, we'll get you in a lineup at some point in our lives. Um, So what's going on? How are things going? The one thing I was pleasantly surprised at seeing in the sit rep was the inclusion of the Persian incursion. I was quite surprised by that. Was there a particular person that kind of forwarded that or fronted that or?
There was one player who called, who sent us an email asking about a particular aircraft for Persian incursion. And at that point, we needed to say, and especially with the Iranian attacks just starting, we said, okay, let's fill out the aircraft roster. And really, that was our only motivation. I know we've gotten a lot of requests for expansions, updates. It's A, way too soon, and B, I don't think I really don't know how we'd model some of the stuff that's going on in the game. So it's we're just watching and learning like everybody else. Chris, is that your impression?
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept of targeting, specifically targeting leadership,
Yeah.
is
Hmm.
that's that gets into a whole process that's entirely driven by intelligence. And I got news for you. That's hard to do.
I think we all agree we can game kinetics all day, and
Right.
we can abstract things like soft kill, EW, other things. But the further and further we get away from physics into human behavior,
Mm-hmm.
then it's just an abstract dice roll. And especially if you think about what the Israelis had to do to get the kind of information they needed to target that many individuals simultaneously. It's an intelligence coup of the first order. And you start out the game with an intelligence coup of the first order and you knock out everybody. I mean, you could write a hell of a story about that.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, your entire country's leadership has just been wiped out, and all of a sudden you're in charge. That would be a great story to write. But gaming it, I don't know how that's possible.
So I was asking Chris before we started which potential conventions y'all were going to traipse over to. He was saying Historicon again.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've got what, 3 games scheduled, Chris, and a
Yep.
seminar.
3 games, and Mike Harris is doing the seminar.
And
Okay.
you know what the topic is for that seminar, or is he?
Yeah, he's going to be going over the background to a supplement we're going to be coming out with when Mike gets it written, that looks at interwar periods, and it basically looks at uh, the other options for war that didn't happen but could have. So the one he's talking about is actually pre-World War One. It's called The Gathering Storm,
Interesting.
and it will be a Fear Guide Dreadnought supplement, which will go with the rest of the fleet's supplement, which will have all the other navies that we didn't put into Fear Guide Dreadnought. So you'll have the U.S., you have the Japanese, you'll have a bunch of the Nordic countries, the South American ABC, Argentina, Brazil, Chile. Those will be in there.
So this fits snug with Rising. I'm sorry, the Russo-Japanese supplement. So it's like Rising, like right after that, pretty much.
Well, this is about five to
But
about 5 years past that point.
Yeah, so 1910
Yeah,
beyond.
it dovetails up against the back of it, but the idea is that it's from 1905 to 1925, which
Okay.
is Fear God, Dreadnought territory. But
Right,
you're
right,
going to
right.
see we had to take a lot of Dawn of the Battleship ships and put them in here.
Well, right. Some of them
And,
are still
you know,
sticking around, right?
so you see
Yeah,
a
when
lot
I
of
was
familiar names if you've been playing Dawn of the Battleship.
talking to the modern naval warfare developers, right? They did the Virginia class simulation that's coming out, and they're Greek, and I was talking to them about
Well, yeah, we talked to them a while back.
right, interesting, about very specifically about
Aspects of how a submarine works.
okay. Oh, they actually reached out. Oh, interesting.
And
Okay.
it's been what, 2-3 years, Larry?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might have been.
Well,
Yeah, that must have been their initial research, because I think they kind of said they basically said they've been working on it for about 3 years plus. So very good. Sorry, I'm looking at the SITREP directly. Again, a very good variety of casts and harpoon, and well, you got everything in here again, right?
we get a lot of submissions from people, and I encourage anyone who's played a fun scenario or who sees a historical incident and turns it into a scenario, send it into us, and we can we'd be happy to have the material. I, as the editor, I do come back sometimes and say, you need to work on this a little bit. So it's not an automatic. You got to bring it up to a certain standard, but we're happy to have new material all the time.
I'm particularly fond of the modeling the aerial search article. I thought that was very well done. I thought that was very detailed. I'm always surprised at how compact yet full of information the SITREP includes, right? So I thought he did a particularly good job on that.
Shangley has mad skills.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody with dedication, he actually goes around when he's writing a scenario. He will often go to the site of the scenario and look at it, take pictures, do local research. So he's a real find. He came to us. We're happy to have him.
And then of course I love the inclusion of the harpoon scenario that kind of dovetails very nicely to the addition of the Japanese self-defense forces. How long has that annex been worked on, and was there any particular platform that had given needed more time than others, right?
I'd have to say that one was one of the most straightforward ones we've done. First of all, the Japanese, while they're not particularly public with information about this stuff, they are a major country and their stuff gets talked about a lot. And they use a lot of Western systems or US systems or analogs of US systems. They will license build the stuff. And so there were some uniquely Japanese weapons that we had to do some research on. And Chris, obviously had to find out all the stuff about Japanese sonars. But again, they have so much that's in common with us. It didn't strain anything.
Right. If anything, you just had to.
They kept on building new stuff while we were writing the annex. And then we had to add the stuff.
Yeah, the endless annex. Yeah, I love the org chart. Really, that alone. I think it's worth just having that. Quite honest. And the division of the forces map I like too. It's very good.
We were really lucky to have actually a contact who's a serving member of the Maritime Self-Defense Force, who because we originally had the old organizational chart, didn't we, Larry?
Yeah. And we got what we could off the web and other places,
Right.
And then Kengo-san came on and said, "Hey, here's this. This is going to be happening very soon. And by the way, you misspelled these names, and put a lot of took a lot of time to correct and improve the quality of the product." I thought that it was he gave not much. It was funny, he said we had the ships pretty much locked down, but it was the organizational stuff that he spent most of his time on.
So I do see, Chris, that you wrote the article on the Velo altitude band and bombs.
Yeah.
Was that most of that? Was a good bit of that from? Yeah, Mariano's work, right?
Yeah,
but
he's got a new book coming out, and he basically interviewed two of the Navy A4 pilots, and they specifically gave altitudes. They said, you don't go below this because it won't arm, or you don't want to go below this because you're a little too close to when it does its thing, depending upon where it hits the ship. And the problem with running that to ground on the U.S. side is that when you look up all the discussions and the studies, the lowest we get on the U.S. side is 1,000 feet, which isn't very helpful. But I did find a couple of instances that basically had the same numbers that Mariano's pilots responded to, which was, if don't go below 200 feet if you want it to arm, and you want to don't go below 300 feet if you don't want to get sprayed when the bomb goes off. So what it really turned out to be is that you really got to be higher than we've really thought to have this work. The other thing that Mariano and I talked about is the Mark 17 had almost a 100% failure rate, not 80% as we have in the game, 100%. Because because I got the exact fuse. It's the M905 tail fuse, and I got the timing set from that off a British website, and it's like 4.5 seconds. Is the shortest. It was made to be dropped from the Canberra, other bombers from relatively high altitude. And what this really explained is that the Argentine Air Force guys did not want to get shot at. So they basically were throwing rocks.
To reasonably good effect, right? The kinetic effect.
Well, that was their thinking, is that it's going to hurt them.
Right.
But when you look at it, except for that one example with the Type 21, you're hard pressed to find a Mark 17 detonating.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at, in most of the videos, it looks like they're maybe above 200, but they definitely didn't seem higher than 300.
They actually came in around 50 to 75 feet.
Right.
Because they were trying, when you look at some of the videos where they're withdrawing after doing a bomb run,
right,
they're dodging masts.
Right. Right.
You got to do that. Okay. Thou shalt not hit a ship's mast. It will end bad. Well, and that's really one of the things that he also pointed out, that they had with the BRP 250 a high drag bomb. But as Mariano says, you can't be below 55 meters. And then I found that on the Spanish XPOL website. And these guys were coming in lower than that, which is why they were all failing as well. So they, the pilots that did the most damage with bombs were the Navy guys who know you had to go up to release. And so They would come in at about 100 feet. Just before they're ready to drop, they would climb up, preferably 300 feet, was what Captain Fox said. And then he also separated his attack wing so that you didn't have 6 aircraft just following one behind the other. That's the best way to get into the spray pattern. And he split them up in direction and in time. So it was clear that was a major concern.
And they didn't have a lot of intercommunication between the services either, right? So if one was learning more throughout, the Air Force in particular was isolated, right?
They were both somewhat insulated. First of all, the Navy pilots didn't have a clue as to the geography of the Falklands. They just didn't have a whole lot of it. And the Air Force guys didn't know how to attack ships.
Mm-hmm. And of course,
fact,
the Navy.
Weren't they specifically prohibited from?
Yeah, there was a law that thou shalt not cross the lines. No, don't cross the beams. It's just really strange. But the only ones who had any real experience with low altitude attacks, and they didn't have a lot. The Navy guys didn't have a lot. They figured out most of it on their own. But they had at least done a lot of practice runs with the Snake Eyes, with the Mark 15 tails.
So speaking of laser beams, laser weapons at sea. That's another interesting article in the SITREP. Having played the Virginia class simulator recently with the high-powered laser range finder, I've been interested to know how detectable that laser range finding is in reverse, right?
If you look at it, I believe the NATO nickname is Squeeze Box. That's a radar detector on Russian ships. So, they think it's a real problem.
Was there anything new learned by Peter that you're aware of that surprised him at all during that writing of that article that he relayed to you, as far as something he didn't know before about it?
Well, the big thing that comes out is we still don't know much of anything. We've got shots against really small drones, and the dwell time is still a few seconds. So this is not ready for prime time against a cruise missile. You're not going to have enough time to illuminate it.
Not even against a subsonic cruise missile.
Yeah.
And the supersonic ones, forget it.
Right.
The big problem is that if laser weapons, I'm sure, will become more powerful and maybe have a faster recharge time or whatever. But there are things you can do to a missile that can protect it against lasers as well. So there's going to be a back and forth on that. I don't know if they will ever be as reliable or as effective as another missile.
Well, another missile, no, they don't. They'll never have the reach.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, just in terms of
that. The big problem is that, yeah, it can be quote unquote cheaper because all you're doing is burning electrons. But that's just the emitter. How do you know when you're on target? It's not like you can track the beam. So there's no closed loop system here like it's on phalanx.
Actually, I heard something about that a long, long time ago when they were talking about laser weapons. And theoretically, what you do is you hook up a spectroscope to your sighting system. And so, when you're, you zap the guy, and what you need to do is read the spectrogram If you're seeing aluminum, if you're seeing steel, then you're getting a hit. If you see a carbon line, you're hitting the fuel or the pilot, or you see nitrogen, then you're probably hitting the explosive. So you could do that, but it's
Yeah, that
the kill
seems more like
assessment so fast because if do you hit him again? Because you've only got a
right.
couple seconds before he's on top of you.
Mhm.
Right. That feels like more of improved assessment as opposed to targeting, right?
It'd have to be some
Well,
sort of AI. Absolutely.
there's just but there's enough out there that tells us that high energy lasers can be useful as a blinding
Mm.
system.
Mhm.
One of the things that Mariano shared was he did an article for a Spanish magazine, and Google Translate's actually pretty darn good with Spanish. And the bottom line is that the Dazzler system in the Falklands was completely useless. Not only could they not aim it, the as Mariana put it, the Argentines didn't even know they were being lased.
Is that a firefly?
Yeah, yeah. So
Interesting.
I mean, but we're getting to the point where electro-optically guided missiles can be you can either burn out the EO guidance system, or you can at least jam it badly with lasers.
Hmm.
Yeah, the current systems are hooked up to the ship's combat system. Just as there's a heck of a lot of difference between a manually aimed 20 millimeter gun and one that is tied into a fire control radar and a combat system on the ship. All of a sudden, it becomes much more effective. Dazzlers like that, yeah, they are really good. And I think the Helios is that's the one we mentioned in there. I think there's several ships that have been fitted with it. Now, whether that optical guidance can help with drones, that's I don't think there'd be any as much interest in lasers on shipboard at all, because we'd still be trying to get up to that really high threshold of defeating an anti-ship missile. But all of a sudden, we've got a low end threat that they are capable of dealing with. Hence,
Like
lasers become important.
almost like a mini Iron Dome.
Well, the best way to think about it is that these things are being steered by someone using a Starlink data link. So you have to go with separating the drone from its controller, and you can fry the chip that the drone's using. And in fact, a lot of high energy microwaves are looking to do just that. And once you start trying to put shielding on it, then your payload goes to hell, and your range goes to hell. And then you can jam the seeker itself. And basically, if the guy can't see where to go, this thing misses.
Or I can just call up my friend Elon and just unplug it.
It's hard to know who's using what.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's a mutual deterrent.
So, but I mean, there was enough stuff out there that Peter thought we needed to do something about lasers. And, the more the three of us pushed back and forth on this thing, the more that it's still a weapon system of the future, that we're at the beginnings of really seeing stuff go to sea that kind of work. So that's a good start.
Right. You got to start somewhere, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of starting somewhere, what's down the pipeline release wise? I think you mentioned obviously the World War I era interwar or pre-war annexed. What is the name of that one again?
Well, we've been trying to get a name. Right now, Larry's calling it Rest of the Fleets.
Well, that was nothing's really. I mean, we had a couple cute names, but they gave the players absolutely no information about what was inside, and we'd like the title to at least be somewhat descriptive. So we just said, Ed Kettler suggested the Rest of the Fleets, and we're going with that. And we're, ROF for the abbreviation, and that's really essentially what it is. If it has a coast defense battleship, by God, it's a Navy, and then the U.S. and Japan, because we didn't give full coverage of them, in High Seas Fleet. And that that sounds very limited, but we've still got a very full annex. Spain, Sweden, Norway, all the Scandinavian countries had coast defense battleships, some of them more than one. And ABCs. So that's the front burner project right now, along with the fifth edition conversion stuff. Chris is still working on getting the CAS annexes up to speed for the new fifth edition.
Now that I've finished a paper that I've been writing for the South Koreans, I can put 100% on ATG stuff. And
can you tell Peter what you're working on, which is seriously cool, by the way.
We got a request for people to write a chapter on the 6 countries that have produced nuclear submarines. Norman Friedman did the U.S. Andrew Erickson from the Navy War College, the China Maritime Studies Institute, did China. They wanted me to do China initially, and I said, nah, let Andrew do it, because they couldn't find anybody to do Russia, which is actually the hardest in terms of the number of classes and all the changes, So I volunteered to do Russia. That probably was not wise.
I sense some. So you're still working on it, you're saying?
Oh, I'm done.
Oh, okay.
But what they wanted was the requirement was 10,000 words, not counting the bibliography. I kind of overshot that by about 2.5 times.
So did you get a redacted version sent back to you?
No. They've had a chance to look at it now, and they're actually quite happy with it.
Okay.
So basically what it is that it's you have the initial development of the first Russian nuclear submarine, the November, the Project 627, how it started, and they didn't build that first one because it had a 1.55 meter torpedo tube in it.
Yeah.
It was to shoot a coastal attack nuclear armed torpedo. And what was funny is that Admiral Kuznetsov, the head of the Soviet Navy, knew they were designing a nuclear submarine. He had no idea what the munitions were. He had no idea what the payload was. So when he got briefed on the first one, he's going, this is useless. Now, fortunately, Stalin was gone by then, so they made some changes, and then we have the. It's why the November has a rounded bow. It was driven by that very large. The torpedo was 1.55 meters in diameter, 24 meters long, and 40 tons.
And how big was the warhead?
Everybody likes to talk about that's where the Tsar Bomba was supposed to go, but you actually look at it, it's in the neighborhood of several megatons, with an operational range of about 40 kilometers or so. And it's just a really dumb idea at that time. because in order to verify where they were at, they'd have to find some way to do the navigation. Because a 3 megaton warhead's pretty big, but ports are small when your error is quite large because you're not sure where you're at.
Hmm.
So I talk about all the designs, including if they have any really weird aspects to them, like the alphas.
And who's producing that book?
This is it. Well, it's going to be online.
Okay.
And it's the Korea Institute for Maritime Security or Strategy, excuse me, Maritime Strategy. And they're going to have a chapter each for all 6 countries. An in-house researcher did France for them. The UK guy is a former Vanguard commanding officer. So that's probably good. I have no clue who's doing India. But they're working to get these posted in June, and they'll be in English and they'll be in Korean. And I did this kind of collage approach for figures where I would take a specific generation and then put a whole bunch of things on it so I can say, go look here to see how everything fits together, rather than just look at this picture of a reactor design, look at this of a particular submarine. I tried to deal with all the nuclear propulsion aspects, and quieting was a big one that they wanted me to talk about. And there's a lot in Russian history to look at how they did things. So that worked out pretty well. But it was pretty big. But now that that's done, I've started really digging into America's fleet. Pretty much just going through and putting in all the depth charge stuff, checking on the searchlights. Larry got most of that right. There are some arcs that we have to quibble about, but that's really about it. And then verify that all the submarines have 0 star for gunnery standards. And then just a brief check. Other than that, I'm through cruisers. I'm into the destroyers. So that takes the longest because you have to go through and identify the various depth charge loadouts and then tell them, you can use this patterns at this time. So once that's done, I'm then going to start piggybacking Emperor's fleets along with the rest of the fleets, because I've got some guns I've got to work on and some torpedoes I've got to find.
Yeah, the Brazilians and the
Chileans,
yeah, they weren't taking real careful notes on what type of guns. So you get 2 4-inchers. That's it. Yeah, and maybe you can narrow it down by, okay, who built the ship? Oh no, but they got a lot of their guns from these other guys. So it's a lot of detective work.
Yeah, so it gets a little messy for some of these. Like when we did Arctic fleets, we ran across a whole bunch of things we missed for Norway. A lot of guns, a lot of torpedoes. And it was only because a guy posted on a Norwegian language website his trip to the museum. It's like, oh, thank you.
Okay. Interesting. What word do we have on the so it's an interesting, you're going to do a 2-parter for France.
Well, I can speak directly to that because I've been working on it all. I've been working at OPEX all the past 2 days, and basically taking Francis's draft and dropping it in InDesign and laying it out. And it's going to be 2 volumes
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's given us 58 scenarios,
Oh,
and
wow.
some of those will be thinned out. But even taking out some of the ones that might not interest players as a rule, there's a lot of history in there, and he's got. There's going to be 2 very fat scenario books. I think we'll deal with probably early up through the 1960s, and then he's got some stuff Syria in the 2020s and some other things that they did later on.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just the history and then an annex. You're actually going to do a full like a scenario and annex and all the way.
It could be as extensive as High Tide in terms of
okay.
variety of scenarios, the number of scenarios. I mean, he's got Alpha strikes, he's got Sierra strikes. A lot of them are hypothetical.
Right.
I mean, some are just flat fictional, based on a dispute that occurred and then was resolved peacefully. Well, what if it hadn't been resolved peacefully? How does that work? But a lot of it's obviously going to be new stuff to the American readers because we have been paying a lot of attention to French post-war naval history, and they have been doing stuff. There'll be at least 2 volumes. I don't know if they'll both be named OPEX, although that does offer itself as a very simple thing. And then Peter is building a French Navy annex right now that will go with those 2 volumes.
Okay. All right. That's what that's what I didn't understand. All right.
The OPEX volumes will have supplemental stuff. For instance, I was just reviewing a bunch of scenarios where he's taking on the Libyans. So at least part of the Libyan Navy has to be in there. The Brazilian, he's got some Brazilian stuff going on. So some of the Brazilian stuff will be in. And we'll do that the same as we did with High Tide. You'll need the French book if you're going to play the scenarios, but the supplemental annexes will have the other Navy data that you need.
Anything else involved? Involved.
The good news is you don't have to buy a lot of books. The bad news is it makes for a fat scenario book. Can't be helped.
Yep.
Right.
The nice thing though about France is between what Peter can find and all the stuff I've got, and I've got, histories of French sonars, history of French torpedoes, we're in pretty good shape for data.
Yeah, I mean,
really not going to be our problem.
Yeah. A lot of stuff's been sold overseas, so we've already seen it in other places, and have that data is already in the database. So is this filling out some? Yeah.
A lot of the guns are there pretty much.
Yep.
Exocet's there, all the brands. And some of their surface-to-air missiles, not a great ton of them. But the thing is that the data is available. We're not having to search quite as much.
Yeah,
so that's going to make the French supplement far more easier to do.
In terms of editorial effort, I mean, we got to obviously pull it together and polish it and make sure it's all organized. But we've got a lot of the data, which is not always the case.
Yeah.
How does the roadmap look otherwise? Do you have anything else that's more in a primordial ooze format at this point?
Well, I wouldn't call it primordial ooze, but I do need to go back through the Russia's Navy book and update the submarines and some of the other stuff that I've dug up. So we're going to do, and the China's Navy needs a little bit of an update as well. Now that we've seen the Type 095, and it's nowhere near quite as big as we thought it was going to be. So that's that sort of stuff we need to to push back in, and I've got to break out some other parts of the Chinese submarines, because I did a paper well after we did the China's Navy volume, and I now need to break out the 093s into separate groups, because they are relatively different enough that we need to have separate entries for some of them.
Interesting.
I mean, so we'll have the 093, the 093A, and the 093Bs will be broken out. One of the things we are engaged with other people with is trying to figure out just how many missile tubes they have. Because a number of people are saying 24, but a lot of the imagery shots are saying 12.
The cost savings. Somebody came in with a cost savings marker right at the end of the design.
No. The 24 is really driven a lot by some of these models that people have been displaying. None of them are official. And my problem is that's a lot of volume that does not exist in that hull.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a real tough time squeezing in 24. Squeezing in 12, particularly since it's not the vertical launcher everyone was talking about, including myself. It's not the universal one. It's smaller. So all those really big missiles, the YJ-20 and whatnot, will not fit. This is a 53 centimeter weapon launcher. So YJ-18s, possibly the CJ-10s. I think they're a little bit big. We'll have to see about that, because they're not 53 centimeter.
Which scenarios are you going to do for Historicon? If you don't mind me telling. Don't mind telling.
We've got one Fear God Dreadnought, one Dawn of the Battleship, and one Cass.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very good. Anything else in the pipeline?
There's a couple of things that we've been talking about. It got pushed to the back burner because David Schuler, who was supposed to be the lead designer and I was going to help him, passed away. And so that's an update to Troubled Waters. I mean, I've got a good list of scenarios to include really bulking out the Arab-Israeli war from what Dave did initially. I basically came up with the ability to double the number of historical scenarios. And with the new rules in Harpoon 5, you now see why the Arabs were so limited in their abilities. They didn't have a lot of training, and they really didn't understand what they were looking at, because it was a ducted environment and they had no clue what they were looking at. So when the Israelis fired off the long-range chaff rockets, and these stay up for 15 minutes, the Arabs thought it was a much bigger attack. And because the Israelis used these chaff rockets, that got ducted before the SAR boats came over the horizon or came into the ducted environment. And half of the missiles fired by the Arabs were against non-targets. So how do we put that into a war game? Because that's a severe limitation on the part of the Arabs. So trying to figure out how to make a historically reasonable approach without basically tying both hands behind a player's back is a little challenging.
Any other Any other talks or papers coming up for either of you?
I don't have anything for this year. I don't think.
I don't either.
I mean, we've got a couple we could do. I mean, I still haven't done the optical rangefinder, which might be of interest to your folks. Because yeah, we had a lot of questions on it. I did it during Fall In a couple of years ago, and it's not really well attended convention. It's one of the weaker ones, but I had a half-hour discussion out of the presentation room going into where's this data coming from, because I was mentioning things that they hadn't heard before. So that was fun, particularly because we make rangefinders a big deal in Fear God Dread Not.
So I haven't asked this question yet. I don't think since we've known each other. But any more novels in the back pocket?
I don't think we have time.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
I've gotten some requests. Hey, aren't you going to do another novel? And frankly, the world is just so crazy right now, and things are changing so fast. By the time you get to chapter 5, you got to throw out the first 4 chapters and start over.
Very good.
The other thing, Peter, this is my opinion. I don't know if Larry shares it. Military thrillers really became popular when there wasn't a lot of conflict. Now that there is, people are basically suffering from combat fatigue.
Interesting.
I completely agree. I have to tell you, I could almost give you the date of when I saw the sales from the military thriller genre start go down rapidly, and I'm sure it's connected with Desert Storm. I mean, up until then, you had Hunt for let's not use Hunt for October. That's more of a spy thriller than a military thriller. But if you take Red Storm Rising, which I have some familiarity with, that was a what if. All this hardware that's sitting around. Nobody had seen what laser-guided bombs do. How do cruise missiles perform in actual combat? And we're way past that now. I mean, it's hard to remember. This stuff is like 30 and 40 years ago now,
right?
When all this stuff was breaking. And the sheer fascination of the topic brought a lot of people in. It was an exotic setting, a lot of high-tech gear. And as soon as they're seeing it on TV, and not just seeing it, but watching a laser-guided bomb go in through the supervisor's window, make a left at the water cooler, and then go down and smash some piece of gear, the mystery's gone. And after that, you have to depend on things like plot and character, which make it so hard.
Probably the best quote ever. I love that.
I mean, it started going down after Desert Storm, but there was a prompt drop after 9/11.
Yeah, that did not help.
There was just, because I can look at historically the royalty checks, and they went south.
Wow. People would say, I book about terrorism. I go, I don't want to read about terrorism. I want to read about.
People want to read to take them somewhere else. If all we're doing is providing a book that keeps you in the same place that you're trying to escape, by the way, it's not as appealing, which is why when Larry and I did the Jerry Mitchell series, we really kept combat down and focused more on describing, submariners' life and other aspects of it, and trying to keep World War III from being, because at that point it's over really fast, and it is really tough to have a plot line when you've got to stretch it out for weeks and months.
Well, that was very insightful. Quite honest, I wasn't expecting that answer, but that it makes sense. Interesting, very interesting.
Well, most novels are about fantasy.
Right.
It's taking you somewhere else, doing something else. And if reading a novel just makes you more anxious about the day-to-day things, that book's going to be thrown away in about 10 seconds. Because it doesn't entertain, it doesn't relieve, it just aggravates.
I'm not saying you can't write about terrorism, but it's something we unfortunately we're experiencing in the course of our daily lives. And what you get is you get a novel where there are bad guys and good guys, and the good guys win. You will never see a novel where the terrorist wins. That would never sell in the United States, anyway. But if you're dealing, you either have to make it very, very personal, so that it's in the context of this other larger event. You have to do it that way, or the larger event takes over the story, and all you're seeing is what's on the news anyways. Give it up.
Now there is, we've talked about some ideas, but you start looking at the time requirement, and it becomes really hard. I mean, Larry and I don't play a lot of games.
Would that we could. No, I mean, funny.
If we started playing games, we would have people saying, "What are you doing? Stop goofing off."
Get the writing. Is it safe to say that we have set aside the replacement for Admiral's Edition?
Well, there's the initial testing we did just showed that the attempt to merge a Captain's Edition and a Harpoon Light failed dramatically. We can't have a single game that does that, largely because detection is a real pain
at scale.
At scale, and it's when you're talking 8-hour turns, even though the opportunity is far, far, far less than that, you still have to give them a chance. And so you're spending too much time worrying about movement, which was the whole point of a board game, to get away from keeping track of movement. And it just kind of imploded. The combat models seem to work pretty good, and they could be simplified a little bit more for a Captain's Edition, but it wouldn't take much. But it's keeping track. I mean, it's a board game, so there's way too much information available to the players. You can see everything. So you have to have rules limitations that won't let you shoot until you've got so much information. Have you ever played Avalon Hill's attack submarine game? Okay, it's got knowledge levels. So let's say knowledge level 1, you have a detection. Wonderful, someone's out there. You got to get to like knowledge level 4 before you can shoot. Okay, how do you do that when you're talking fleets in a wide area? Rather than a 1v1 type of thing, which is what attack sub's really about. So how do you strengthen that in and put it together so that it retains some semblance of reality, but not requiring the time effort? And so I've been looking at different games and how they did things, and a lot of the games that really, in my opinion, skirt the issue either say, well, you just can't hide. So they know where you are. And there are two games that is a primary assumption going in. And I'm going, okay, that doesn't work. There's some other games that have very irregular spaced geographical locations. So it's not hexes or whatnot. And so movement is like you can move one, or like War at Sea. The Avalon Hill World War II game. You can move one or two of those little things. So if you're not in the box, you can't see each other. That's another way you can. I don't think it works well. It really chops up modern naval tactics into confetti. So I've taken a look back at the old SPI game, Task Force, which uses megahexes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you're not in a megahex, you can't be seen. But there's still the possibility within the hex, there's a possibility that it could be done. And that works out a little bit better with plotting. And what I mean by plotting is you draw a line on a paper map as to where you're going. And once that's done, then folks can move. And if you're not in a megahex, I don't care. So it's kind of a combination of those two things. And that's what we're looking at for the board game aspect. There's a lot that can be done for a Harpoon Light, but that would be a miniatures game.
Yeah, what you were just discussing sounds like Modern Naval Combat. I don't know if you remember that one. That was a hex based. Pretty sure that's the name of it. They had like a 70s variety of it, 80s variety of it, and a Falklands expansion. I can't remember the exact name.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it kind of did it in reverse. It was normal hexes, but then when you were in the same hex, you had it was like a reverse type.
It's a lot like the SPI game. Oh God, what's the name of it? Fast Carriers.
Yeah.
Where if you're in the hex, you then go to a battle board.
Yes, that's exactly right. And very similar to like Atlantic Chase and so forth.
Yeah, although Atlantic Chase is you've got the pieces that you use to mark your intended movements. So that it's kind of a plotting process.
I'm trying to find that. Modern Naval Combat. That's what it was. MNC. Yeah. Very good. All right. Cool.
So we haven't given up.
Right.
We've just taken a step back and we're bifurcating the concepts. And after we get done with rest of the fleets and OPEX, I'll start spending a little bit more time putting that back together.
Yeah, it feels like what I'm hearing is that you kind of need an aha moment on detection, right? You haven't quite hit that, which is,
Yeah, I have not come up with a relatively simple way without relying on a lot of detailed plotting and one step at a time movement.
Right.
I mean, even Captain's Edition, you pull, out of a cup to determine who moves first.
Right. The indirect fog of war, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we spoke for longer than I thought we would, honestly. It's an hour. So if there's any last second questions, anyone still here, we've had a pretty good audience throughout. If anybody has a last minute question, by all means ask. But we will leave it there unless there was any other topics you wanted to cover, Chris and Larry.
I'm good at this point, Chris.
No, yeah.
Yep. All right. I don't see any additional questions, so we will cut it there. All right.
Hey, thanks,
have a great one. Great talking to you both.
Have a good day, guys.